Hi, everyone. Good morning. Okay, great. It's so good to see you guys. Lots of familiar faces, lots of new faces. Thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yasmin Zand. I am a senior consultant at Passle, so I have the pleasure of working with all of our North American clients on implementing our software, best practice, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have any questions about Passle things, feel free to find me and talk to me about that. But I don't want to talk about Passle, I want to talk about Trish Lilley. So I'm going to get out my phone because Trish is a very decorated woman, and I cannot do her justice without...
I have a mic. I have a necklace.
Oh, you're mic'd up. So as you all know, this is Trish. Trish is the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Thompson Coburn. With over 20 years of experience in shaping brands, businesses, and top-notch teams, Trish's unparalleled expertise and internationally recognized prowess in championing innovation have propelled her to the forefront of the industry. I mean, you all know her, so I don't think that's an overstatement by any means. There's more. Trish's distinguished career spans successful tenures at both US and global firms. She's demonstrated an unwavering commitment to driving innovation, impact, and client success. Her leadership extends beyond the boardroom, as evidenced by her invaluable contributions to Access Justice Brooklyn, Legal Marketing Association, and the College of Law Practice Management. Beyond her professional achievements, Trish is a dedicated community leader, serving on boards and advocating for diverse and collaborative initiatives. Trish is going to say this is a bait and switch. Anything she shares with you is going to be valuable. So, Trish, welcome to the stage, and I'll leave you to it.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I came to speak, not that person, whoever Yasmin was discussing. It is a bit of a bait and switch. The problem here is you're a victim of Will and I putting ideas together, and we both have wicked ADD. So if you look at the title, it's one thing, and then if you see the bullet points, it's a lot of other things, right? It is a little bit of a bait and switch. We have this featured as a masterclass. I went to parochial school long enough to know that humility is a virtue, and I like to practice it, so I don't think I have any corner on knowledge. I would like to share my experience with you guys, tell you some things that have worked for me. Hopefully it benefits you. This is a largely senior group, so I certainly don't want to presume that I know more than you. I may be older than you. I may have slogged through more mud than you. And what I plan to do is address all of the points that are in the description because I like to deliver on what is promised. So I do want to talk to you about teams and team building, ways to ensure that your teams are functioning, are united, are buffers for you, like a nice pillow to land on when you get beat up on trying to champion an initiative. David Ackert's in the front row now, too. Looking fabulous, as always. So I do want to talk about that, and I think it is related to championing change and driving change. And I know we're talking about digital change, but I also want to I will talk about two specific projects that I worked on. One was a long-running initiative, and one was more of a finite project. But with both of those, it involved a lot of change, shifting attitudes, helping people within the firm, not forcing, but helping them to see things from a different perspective. And some of it was absurd and amusing, so hopefully the examples will be entertaining to you, if not helpful from any practical standpoint. Are we good? Okay. One thing I want to say is I really hate listening to myself drone on. The reason I'm in legal marketing is that it's 55,000 things all day long, right? Here we go. See, I stayed on script even without slides. Thank you. Please put that in the evaluation. Also, Passle gets what they pay for. So I did just spend 2.5 days at Harvard. I was the first person in my family out on my mom's side to be born outside of Southeast, so it was a real goodwill hunting moment for me. But I was at Harvard at this program on influential leadership, and there was so much information poured at me. I'm still synthesizing it, but I've tried to get little nuggets in, and I may throw things at you. But what I'll do after this is, for anybody who's interested, hit me up. I'll put together a list of resources that you guys can check out. Sister Assumpta certainly taught me that humility is a virtue. And if anyone else here has a picture of themselves with a nun at Hershey Park, I want to talk to you after this, okay? Dawn May, I don't know. Are we going anywhere? So I did want to tell you a little bit about myself, because I do know a lot of people, but sometimes it's superficial and we pass in the night or at a cocktail party, if you're lucky and you don't have to listen to me. I come from a journalism background. I went to Temple University. I was a reporter early on. When I was in college, I worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which was not the trash it is now. It was a Pulitzer Prize winning newspaper. I covered government meetings. I interned in Harrisburg which is the state capital in Pennsylvania, and a horrible place to spend a summer as a 19-year-old, but there's nothing going on. But as part of that, I had mentors who sent me to ask very difficult questions of very important people. So I did have training from an early age at, having to get my gumption up and put on my game face and whatever else. I'm very much a Northeast regional person. I've learned that. Now I'm working at a Midwest-based firm. I've realized just how Northeast-centric I am. Laura Wegman, who is our amazing Director of Marketing Communications, is here, and I'm sure she can attest to that. So I went to Temple. I covered federal court. I used typewriters. I, in fact, took a test for an internship on a manual typewriter. I am not actually that old. They were just that cruel. And I've worked at 8 law firms. So that's who I am and how I come at things. And we're going to talk about this word salad, which lives in my brain, that's in the description. And I'm going to try to stay on script, but again, if what I'm saying is not helpful, not interesting, you have questions, you have a real live problem that you want answers about, or you would like feedback on, or you'd rather have the smart people in the room help you with, bring it up, interrupt, whatever. I'm from a very large Irish family, and it's not going to daunt me in the slightest. So when I kind of went over this, we're going to talk about teams and driving digital change, but change is change, right? It's just getting people to deal with things that they're uncomfortable with, to see the value in something, to see your vision. Sometimes I don't even know what my own vision is, so that's a thing. You need to center that. But it's bringing people along for the ride, and it very much is a political sort of thing in my mind. I don't read that a ton. I mean, yes, there's sectors of influence, and there's you can do influence mapping and all of that. But for me, I always think of JFK and LBJ. And LBJ, for anybody who knows anything about American politics, spent years in the Senate. He knew everybody's backdoor secrets, and he just was an insider. JFK came in, he was beautiful, and he talked a good game, and he did nothing. Don't let my grandmother's ghost come into the room. So he accomplished crap. LBJ came in, and the Voting Rights Act came in, and the Civil Rights Act came in, because he knew where the bodies were buried. He knew how to twist arms. He knew how to grease wheels. All the cliches you can think of, he was able to execute on effectively because he did his homework. So, some of it is just political capital. And this slide, I think, is out of order. So one of the things that we talked about at this program at Harvard was, and this is where I'm going to get into teams. Any questions right now about anything? Anybody objecting to content? Speak up. One of the things that we talked about at this Harvard program, and I think it's kind of common sense for anyone, is that MIT did this study, and they found that the most effective teams, the smartest teams, the most successful teams had 3 consistent elements: diversity, empathy, and women. So, I'm all about that. I'm all about the kids who now wear mismatched socks on purpose, and they're okay with that. Like, life is so much easier for them than it was for me in high school in the 80s. So I think that these are really key things, and I want to touch on them a little bit. The diversity is, DEI right now, we want to make sure that we have people from diverse backgrounds. But what does that mean? For me, I think you have to consider the broad swath of diversity. Yes, cultural, how people may identify in different ways. You want to make sure that they've got professional backgrounds that are diverse, right? and you want to know what those backgrounds are, it is amazing to me sometimes that people who lead departments or lead teams have absolutely no curiosity about the people that work for them. They don't know what they've done before. They don't know what skills they have, and they really don't benefit from the full strength of that team because they don't ask. I mean, part of being successful is being curious and learning to rely on your team. So I think that this is something that's really important to do. You've got introverts and extroverts, right? But you've got thinkers and you've got doers. You've got people who just fly off and do stuff and they're wacky and whatever. And you can let that incense you and frustrate you, as my bosses are incensed and frustrated by me because I am one of those people. Or you can kind of go like, okay, how do I deploy that in the greater mix of things, right? And how do I take this person who's a thinker and who literally wants to like consider an idea for more than a minute, whatever, and come back to you 3 days later with a very thoughtful response, like where would you use them and how would you deploy them and where do they fit into things? We did this exercise at Harvard that I'm not going to make you do because honestly I hate things like that and it was stupid and we're a little shorter on time. But it was like, how many people have pets and how many people have 3 pets and how many people have 4 pets, whatever. And they were like, oh, these are the farmers. I have 6 pets. I am never farming anything. So that was a little silly in the beginning. But then it was like, how many people are play musical instruments? 1, 2, 3, 4, same thing. But the point is, know what your strengths are. Know what these people all do, right? And I think that certainly for those of us who are managing large teams, it's very easy to ignore certain sectors of your team. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but wow, it takes so much work to talk to people and to care and to take an interest. And I am not naturally empathetic, nice, compassionate, whatever. So for me to talk to you about your chihuahua for like 3 days about whatever bladder issues it's having, but it is an investment. If you care for no other legitimate reason, it is an investment in that relationship. It's a personal connection. And that's where, now we're back. Hello? That's where we kind of get into the empathy stuff. Like, why do you even want it? That was my question, right? Why do you need empathy in a team? Well, you need it because when people feel safe, hate safe space, hate that term, whatever, overused, but I'm gonna throw some cliches in here, sorry about that. But you create an environment, you create a lab, right, where people are okay with saying, hey, I know it sounds weird, but maybe we could do X, Y, Z. I know we're talking about an event space, but wouldn't it be cool if we put a giant screen outside and who came up with that idea? Brilliant, probably not that expensive. And look, people like James get suckered into using space like this and paying extra for it probably. So you want those innovations, you want those ideas, but people are not gonna proffer them if it doesn't feel comfortable. They're not gonna say, hey, I noticed this thing where when we do client intake, XYZ happens, but problem finding, problem spotting, not just problem solving. Like you can bring a problem to people and work on solving it, and that's great, but you want your team force multiplier, just like cameras on the street for the police. Love that term. But you want them to be your force multipliers. So that's why empathy is important, right? It builds in resilience. And honestly, for you, when you're having a rough day, like I may or may not have had yesterday, if you can say to one of your directors and another of your directors, I cannot believe this is happening, whatever, and they kind of have your back, that's a really nice thing for you. So how do you build the empathy? Check-ins, step-ins, I don't know if people are familiar with that. I don't want to belabor it if you are, but sort of a check-in, how are you doing today? What are you bringing to work today? How are you feeling? What mood are you in? Whatever, I know, but it works, right? It really works, and it's important, and it's helpful. So start a meeting that way. Hey, it's Friday. What's everybody looking forward to on the weekend? Who wants to sleep in? Who wants to do this? Who wants to do that? Step in if you have ever thought, I will never go to a gym again because I just ate 4 bagels and I need to live under a rock in shame. No one was eating the bagels. Andy and I lamented. You share your vulnerability, right? Relating to each other, recognizing points of common connection, points where you can and it can be professional stuff too, but I think the personal stuff is gives you all the more mileage, correct? And I think, and one of the things that they kept stressing at Harvard was to remove at least from your responses when people talk to you about things that are going wrong. I mean, a horrible and heart-wrenching example is if someone has a miscarriage, well, at least you can try again. That is the last thing anybody ever wants to hear, or trying to fix the problem. I don't know if anyone's seen the nail in the head commercial, like, oh, I feel this pain in my head and, it won't go away. Well, you can pull the nail. I don't need you to fix it. I need you to just hear me. So my husband and I are complete gender role reversal. He tells me things. I'm like, I don't care that you should just do X, Y, Z. No, he wants me to hear him. Okay, whatever. I hear him. Home, work, two different spheres, okay? So it is important. And again, I'm cynical about it. We know the ingredients of this, right? Geez, Louise. Okay, I am a relatively strong person, but these buttons are tough. So how do you deal with this? Like, how do you make it happen, right? You have all the stuff there, but how do you bake the cake? One of the things that I did, and when I was at Fox Rothschild, I was there for 10 years, and I have, like I said, terrible ADD. I get bored very easily. Come on up. I have to sit up here. Please join me. One of the interesting things was we went from 400 lawyers to nearly 1,000 lawyers in the 9.5 years that I was there. We went from 8 offices, 4 of which were really one office, but we had a very weird suburban footprint in Philadelphia, to 21 offices. So we metamorphosized. It was constantly churning, burning, bringing on new stuff, and that's why I stayed, because I have something wrong with me. But I loved having to mix up the service delivery, the model, the way in which we did it, the way in which the team was organized. Was this matrix the right matrix? Am I in the wrong matrix? What is a matrix? I don't know. Hey, Trish, we're going to merge with this firm. They have 30 lawyers. They're in Seattle. We need you to understand that market. And they have a virtual reality practice. So can you get on that? Okay, let me Google virtual reality. So one of the things that I did with the team to keep them engaged, but also to make sure that we were thinking of things in new ways and innovating. And, I think Connor just said it in his intro, like these small changes that you can make that start to acclimate your lawyers to change, or whoever your folks that you answer to in the world, acclimate them to change. They start to see the benefit of looking at things a different way. It builds your credibility. But one way to get at that and get your team to think that way and be proactive and be resourceful, because they are holding computers in their hands all the time, so why are you asking me questions? Pet peeve. Is to put together teams within your group. I had about 50 people, so you may not have teams that big. And I would say if you don't, you want to befriend the folks in other departments. Maybe you want to work with your service providers, but kind of take somebody who never talks to somebody else and put 3 or 4 people together and throw them at a problem that has really almost nothing to do with their day-to-day and make them research it. 1, it helps them professionally because they expand their skill set. Helps you because it's a little bit of cross-training. And 3, they sometimes bring really innovative and interesting solutions to the problems because they're coming at it with a fresh perspective. And I gave some examples here. I do think that brainstorming goals for the next quarter in little subgroups and then reporting back to the full team can be a good exercise. And sometimes you hear the dumbest crap. I mean, honestly, you're like, wow, you work here. Okay, we pay you. And you just smile, and it's great, but they feel good. But you have to kiss a lot of frogs, right? It's part of the exercise. It's part of what you do to get to the better place. And watching my time because I want to leave time for questions. Add a personal flavor to it, like we talked about, sort of these personal check-ins and things like that. There's a book that I am a little bit weirdly obsessed with called Reframing Organizations. It's like 9,000 pages long and so dry and horrible. But they basically say, and it's like a standard for business school, which I never went to. I've also never had a marketing class, probably evident. But they talk about looking at organizations through different lenses, right? And one is political, one is HR, one is structural, and one is symbolic. I really like the political. That's my fun spot. But the symbolic is important because it's basically the softer side of things, but that goes to team bonding, that goes to feeling part of and proud of and things like that. So I will say, and again, examples, you're going to do whatever works for you, but at Fox, we had this weird thing where we started with a smaller team, right? We probably had 8 people. I don't know, Andrew and I worked together back then, right? I don't know, 8, 10. But we started doing a Thanksgiving meal, which became a nightmare, in my mind, because I was bringing turkey for 50 people, and everybody else was making sides, and we ended up renting out or using the whole conference space in the bottom part of the building, and other departments would come because there was so much food. We would have food for 150 people, but every time I suggested, hey, maybe we don't want to do that anymore. Oh my God, no. This was their thing. They lived for it. We talked about it all year. We had great pictures year to year, whatever. So, you're going to find the things that you do that work with your team, and I think, you want to be authentic about it. So if everyone hates eating on your team, don't have a Thanksgiving meal. We did this weird decorating contest one year for the end of year holidays, and it became insane. There were cubicles where people, sometimes 3, 6 people would get together, and they would make a winter wonderland walkway with inflatables. There was somebody who had an elf yourself, photo studio set up in their office. Some people would, I don't know if it was legal, but they were roasting marshmallows. There was so much going on. And we brought in people from other departments, and often the firm chairman or the chief privacy officer, one of the lawyers, to judge. We got a special clipboard and a really absurd plastic trophy. And there was a whole ceremony about it every year. And every time I said, do we really want to do that again? Oh my God, yes. I don't know if they still do it now, but it went on for many years, nearly a decade. So those kinds of things stick with people, and they make them stick with you, and they make them stick with each other. And so I don't want to belabor this point too much. I'm going to stop here. But I was a little cynical when we were at Harvard this week. The one professor was saying, it's so important to brand your department, and to have a shared vision, and to have a tagline, and to put together, your brand promise and whatever. And I started reflecting. I am as cynical as a lawyer, if not more so. So I was like, all right, put it aside. I don't think it's a bad idea, right? What are you delivering? What are you going to be proud of? What are you going to be part of? And everybody sort of knows it. Plus, if there's free swag, everyone loves that. So in all of this stuff, in the mix, in the recipe, I haven't really talked a lot about leaders, what's missing. You're not there. You shouldn't be there. It's not your job to be there. Your job is to empower, to orchestrate these weird Machiavellian, maybe, subgroups that you're going to put together, task forces, whatever it happens to be. That's your job, is to put that out there, to empower people, to encourage them to think for themselves and to think for you. You benefit from this, right? And then one of the things that we hit on when we were prepping for this session is hierarchy. I am really a very strong believer in not having a hierarchical organization, because I think if you run your team right, everybody knows where they fit. I don't need to dress you down or remind you every day that you are 1.76 steps down from where I am. And with Gen Z, if you feel strongly you need a hierarchy, knock yourself out and see how many employees you keep from the Gen Z group, because they want meaning, they want to feel invested, they want to feel part of, they want to lead with ideas, and whatever. Millennials are old now, but I had a lot of millennials on my team when they weren't old, and they were the same way. They really liked titles, though. That was my titles. And I had a firm chairman who said titles are cheap. So it was great. You want to be the Grand Poobah, you want to be the Queen of Sheba, knock yourself out. I don't care. We're a mid-market Philly firm. You're certainly not making bank here. But I think that gives everybody a sense of ownership, and it makes them feel comfortable driving things and suggesting things, and also people see different things at different levels. Just like I say to lawyers, you need to have client teams that encompass everybody who touches the client And they're like, whoa, I'm doing the important work. Okay, but when we did client feedback interviews, this in-house counsel was saying, I've been asking for my bills on purple paper for 20 years, and I'm just done with your firm, and I'm leaving now. I mean, weird things sink ships, right? Loose lips certainly do. But, other weird things sink ships too. But by the same token, odd things can rise, get the tides to lift the boats. And I think that, what you might miss sometimes is that somebody who perhaps is more junior on your team has a relationship with someone in accounting or has a relationship with someone in recruiting. You get intel, one. You get insight. You get a fresh perspective. Their minds are not constrained. I mean, talk to toddlers. They're crazy, right? The stuff that comes out of their mouths. And oh my God, like if you can make products that they come up with, you'd be so rich because this stuff is so fun. I think it does take confidence to have a non-hierarchical type of approach to your team. Too bad, right? I mean, you can't, if you want to walk around being an arrogant jerk, people are not going to work for you. You're going to get a bad rep around town. It's going to be hard to recruit, whatever. So take a breather. Nobody's out to get you. I see, and I'm being a little flip, but I have seen this in my many years in the industry that there are just a lot of horrible bosses, far fewer than there were when I started. But I literally have modeled myself on trying not to be a horrible boss based on some real doozies I worked with and for. So I think that, again, it speaks to the diversity and the generational differences and all of that. So step back and give your team space to grow and to really lift the whole effort. And that will help your innovation and manage the strengths and interests. I say that when I interview people. I say that in reviews. I like to manage the strengths and interests, but it's work, so I'm not creating nirvana. So I'll manage their expectations. But if I found out somebody loves drones and wants to do drone footage and has a drone license and I don't even know what that's about, and he works for Laura and we can send him to a conference and he gets to drive around California and do drone things, then we're gonna do that because what's it really cost? He's already going, right? He's happy, he's taking drone footage. So look for those things and you're not gonna know that stuff if you don't know your team. Questions, problems, challenges, debates? So quiet. I hope there are questions at the end because I want to engage. But I did want to go through a couple for instances quickly. It's rare that I get to put a picture of Biggie and Faith Evans in a PowerPoint, but I'm happy. I'm happy that it was here. So when I was at Fox, and again, this is a multi-year sort of initiative, but it was constant change and reorientation of firm leadership's attitude to clients, what clients were, what kinds of services we should provide to clients, what types of perks, what types of interactions, what types of things we should do to attract more types of clients in a certain vertical, whatever. So we had a lawyer join the firm, I guess maybe after I was there 1 or 2 years. And he had some, interesting entertainment clients. And he had been a singer in the service. I don't even know, whatever. I was fortunate that I have a family member who's very senior in the entertainment industry. So I had this much insight into the entertainment industry. But this partner and us, marketing, it was one of those wonderful sort of serendipitous moments when you got to build a practice with a partner. It was a true partnership. You were running towards a goal together. We were trying to build this up. And so as part of this, we were servicing clients that we had, and I got a call one day that we really needed to pay for Faith Evans' makeup to be done for a red carpet event. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's happening. And, whatever. I was a little bit newer in the job, and I was like, I just don't want to put that through Chrome River right now. No. Let me talk to the firm chair. It was like, what the? And I said, well, listen, this is the type of perk, this is the type of service that entertainment clients expect. She's asking because she expects us to deliver it. So if we say no, we have people asked to play golf at your club. We have people asked to do all these other dull things. She wants nice mascara and whatever and blah, blah, blah. So, leap of faith. I had to explain to him, like, this is a very different type of client. It's one, it's an individual client. Two, this is an industry that's built on perception and look and all of that sort of thing. So, the partner wasn't going to waste his time convincing the firm chair. He wanted me to waste my time doing it. So I did persuade him, and we did Faith Evans makeup, and it looked fabulous. We didn't do it. We hired someone. We also, and these are just random photos. I don't know if anybody's a Motown fan, but that middle photo, that tiny little man, is Berry Gordy, who founded Motown Records, and one of his bodyguards who's very large. I don't know, Real Housewives fans. I'm not, but I'm a Nene fan because she was a client and she's a hoot. So that's her there. And there's Angela Bassett looking fabulous with me before I stopped dyeing my hair. So that's just to show you like the sorts of clients that we were dealing with, which, yeah, if you work in an entertainment law firm in LA, you're seeing all the time. I was with a Philadelphia backwater firm that had no offices in the middle of the country. And we started to build this. And so one of the things we did was have a Grammy party. Do you want to go to a law firm Grammy party? Is that going to be glamorous and fun? So one, we're trying to make it something that anyone would want to go to. Two, we're trying to convince firm leadership, we should have a Grammy party, And they're like, well, who are we inviting? Well, we're not actually inviting that many. We're inviting clients, but then the word gets out, and there's this secret list that floats around of like the hot parties to go to. And sometimes the Hollywood Reporter website has it, and sometimes, it's on this site, Billboard has it, whatever. So again, it was just like educating the lawyers on how this would work and constantly having, I think the proof of value, and coming back and saying, look, we got these people to come, and here's what the billings were, and here's what this was. Like, the data helps you tell the story. And I think that that's something we all need to be aware of, and everybody says we're data-driven and we're this and that. Like, know the money, know your people in finance, know the CFO. I mean, a lot of you have MBAs. Are the MBAs focused on finance? I don't know. I have a journalism degree, and I took that major because there was no math requirement. I have not had a math class since my sophomore year of high school, and I got a D. So I get the finance stuff theoretically, but I don't want to be doing it. So make friends with the folks around the firm who can help you with those things. Some of you are going to be the finance whizzes and trying to give a presentation and be inspiring and really make people feel things. Well, I have the facts, so they should see it. That's not enough. You need to also have the pizzazz. And so, work with those people who can help you where you have gaps. So we did start having Grammy parties, and we had them on the rooftop at the London and West Hollywood, which is a Gordon Ramsay hotel. And we paired them with substantive sessions with clients. So Nene Leakes came and talked about, how Daryl, I don't know, Real Housewives people know, send it to Daryl, that's that Daryl. He would do Q&A with them, whatever else. One year we did Blair Underwood talking about how Daryl had helped him make more money from his line of clothing at K&G than he ever made in entertainment, whatever it is. So we would diversify. We tried to do it on the cheap. We literally were giving people mini fish and chip cups on this rooftop. And it worked. But again, like, document, put it out there. Ashley Graham became a client, first plus size model on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And that's my kid, who's now very old, with her. But we did events with her, lovely woman. But again, had to explain to the firm, how is this going to benefit us? Well, we're going to get mileage out of it. We're going to get placement out of it. We're going to get the firm name into publications, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if anybody has questions about that, but I just, that was just a constant sort of shift in changing people's perceptions. That practice, at one point, we didn't have any offices in the middle of the country. And so I got the firm to own the name. We copyrighted entertainment law coast to coast because we weren't in the middle. And so you turn a negative into a positive. Hey, we're everywhere. Then we did eat up a Minneapolis firm, and they represented Prince's estate. So it was kind of a little bit more diverse. But But again, they're like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to waste an associate's time trademarking this, whatever? I checked last night, perhaps early this morning, and Fox is still using that, except now it says entertainment and sports law coast to coast, and I don't think it has the same ring. Anyhow, so another quick project, because I think I'm running on time. Okay. This is more of a tech thing and more of, something along the lines probably of digital transformation. But COVID hits, right? And I'm at this stodgy old Wall Street firm. And these guys have no ability to think creatively, these real estate co-chairs. And everything I say to them is, snidely dismissed and whatever else. And I say, we should have virtual events. We should do this and that. So they're slowly starting to do that stuff. But I was like, no one is doing anything with their clients. We need something big. So froze like deer in the headlights. And I said, well, how can we deal with this? We've got all these accolades in real estate. We've got all this great thought leadership we're putting together. We didn't have Passle. But, I was like, how do we draw people to this? And I thought, I'm brainstorming with some of the people I worked with at the time, some of my team, younger than I am, and I was like, I don't know, could we make a virtual world? Could we make a metaverse? Of course we can, because we have law firm marketing budgets and they're limitless. Could we do we were brainstorming all kinds of thoughts, like a choose your own ending sort of, walk down a New York City street, something like that. So we came up with an idea that I pitched probably to 5 or 6 different agencies. I said, we want something where people walk down the street and they see a Strzok, partner up on a marquee of a movie theater, and we see a chalk artist has drawn a partner here or something else like that, whatever. And people were like, we could do a brochure. And I was like, no, that's actually not what it's like. I want an online thing and whatever. And they were like, they make meds for you, people like you. And I was like, I'm on them. So anyway, I did find an agency that I worked with, Lisi, and Robin is here today, and she was like, you're nuts. But she said, give me a couple days, crazy head. And she came back and she was like, I don't know that we can actually do this, and I don't know how to price this, and I don't know any of it. And I was like, deal, let's try it. But I needed to get some money and some buy-in, right? And how many of you gone to lawyers and you're like, you've got this huge, beautiful PowerPoint, so much more professional than anything I've shown you today, and and you've got your facts in order, and you've got all this stuff, and the lawyers are like, oh, why is the slide blue? And you're like, well, we can change that. We can make it red, whatever. All right, but why is it blue? That looks like a French, is this a French plant? I don't know. Have you been to Paris? You're like, dude, I just want to get to the second slide, right? And again, we talked about it at Harvard. I think it's very true of where services delivery is going and product delivery. I mean, services too, but professional services is going more there where it's experiential, right? It's that, was it Maya Angelou, I think? I don't know who said it. I'm so bad at these things, but people don't remember what you said to them. They remember how you made them feel. So you need to make lawyers feel things. Very difficult. I understand, right? I don't even feel things, and I'm trying to make people feel things. But I was like, I need them to shut up when I explain this concept to them. And there were other components like a client advisory panel and all this thought leadership and whatever. And I thought, let me just get through this. How am I going to do this? But you need to own your space. You guys would not be in this room if you weren't smart and weren't capable. You wouldn't have the jobs you had if you're not smart and you're not capable. And you heard me say, don't be arrogant, but be confident and own that space. And don't be wallflowers. So I went into this meeting and I said, you're going to stop and you're going to listen to me. And I'm going to show you this presentation. You are lying on a beach and the water is rushing over you and there's a beautiful warm breeze and you're just going to enjoy my words while I speak them. And they said, well, and I said, guys, you have nothing better to do. It's COVID. I'm sorry, but one's on Long Island, one's in Kiowa. Suck it up and listen to me. So they did shut up. I mean, I got probably 10 slides in, and one co-chair of the firm said, can I ask a question now? And I said, absolutely not. We are not finished. And we went through, and we created this thing, which was the first version, very clunky, very quirky. We used kitschy and fun, but it was basically like, I'm walking through New York, and I see things about Strook and whatever else. It wasn't that great. I mean, no offense. Robin did her best with it, especially with the budget we had, but we got PR out of this thing. We did some paid content stuff with Commercial Observer. We did a lot of stuff. I know 9 seconds, I'm almost done. So there was a lot of value to it that came out of it, but it opened them up to doing other types of things. So you're in the driver's seat. There's no I in team, 2 I's in innovation. You're the one who can drive this stuff. You need to do it. Confidence leads to gravitas. When you have the facts, you're secure in your vision, you prepare for the discourse, the confidence comes. Go in prepared. These guys depose people. Go in ready for that. Have all those questions anticipated. How do you do it? Scan the horizon. Know the people who are going to influence. Influence map. Do the ladder of, who has more influence and more power than others. Who do you need to convince first? Who in the little army of people do you need to build into your constituency? Know people, spend that time, man. We tell our clients, walk the halls, even if you're virtual, I don't know, do virtual coffees, 15-minute check-ins, whatever. Know what their dog likes to eat. Know that their wife hates purple cake. Know whatever. Have points of connection with them. If you don't know them, you can't leverage them. I mean, have a good relationship with them, and then also work collaboratively. And make sure you do it with your peers across the organization. So map out the hierarchy of stakeholders and their influence, and that will help you. Come on, guys. Do it. Done. I think we have time. Yeah. Anyone want to take issue, fight? I'm ready for it. I'm disappointed. As your mentor through LMA, I really would like you to work on that. That's one of my favorites. It comes up every once in a while. And then I was thinking of something, and I thought, oh, God, I can use that photo here. Anybody have questions, things that they found helpful in trying to convince lawyers to come along for the ride, to step outside of themselves? I mean, these are people driven by precedent, right? So you have to teach them to take a risk. No? All right, I am going to put together a really comprehensive... No, I'm not. I'm going to put together a big list of stuff, both things that I've read myself, some of the stuff I referenced here, some of the pieces from Harvard, and hit me up or I'll send it to the Passle folks and they can distribute it after the fact. But I think there's so much information out there and so many things that we can rely on, and so many industries 3,000 light years ahead of us with this stuff that we need to use that learning and rely on that too. Thanks, guys.